Look down there. It's an Airsoft commando in his natural habitat, the living room. He's indoors because outside it's cold and it's not pleasant. Therefore, he's spending time playing with his gear on the couch like a real couch commando. Oh, nice gear. Yeah. Sometimes Airsoft commandos actually run into different Airsoft commandos, and then starts a confrontation called the bigger barrel contest. Two commandos compare their barrels. Obviously, the one with bigger barrel wins. His barrel is in 308. Of course, it's not only the length that matters, it's also the caliber. You need to bring something much bigger to the table. Nice, M110. That's a big barrel. Not big enough. So you run to get your biggest barrel possible. The longest, the biggest one. But the competition is very big. Not everything is lost, as now your HK417 GBBR from VFC can be powered by HPA. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Frog Manual. And in this episode we are looking at the HPA GBBR conversion for VFC HK417. Actually, it will fit also to the G28 if you happen to have one. I know they are hard to come by. Or if you've watched the latest releases from VFC on the M110A1 fairs in Taiwan, you also probably noticed that there is M110A1 coming, which is basically based off HK417, so the same conversion should fit. Of course, we will confirm it when it hits the market. So today I will show you how to assemble the conversion for the HK417, but first let's have a look what do we have in a set of such a conversion. So obviously we have the conversion itself. This is the second generation. The first generation was tiny bit different, and actually in this video I will be assembling the first generation. Basically the difference is that the top and bottom are separate parts and there is a seal in between. So to simplify it, the new second generation is just one piece. So the method will be exactly the same, but at that time when I was recording that assembly manual, I had no second generation conversion. So I wanted to be prepared when I have them. So the rest of the video will show that one, so don't be surprised, but the process is one-to-one identical. Let's put the conversion aside. Then we have two magazines, and the magazines are of course 3D printed. The capacity is 40 rounds maximum, with internal switch 20 rounds. There will be a separate video on how to print them and build them, so you can see the details in that video, of course. There is the speed loader in generation 2.3. The second generation had some friction issues in this area inside, so the version 2.3 has them solved, and obviously it will be published on the codes and my library on Prussia, together with the models for the magazines and all replacement parts. And we also have the QD Foster US type connector with the attachment for the hose. The hose with the trigger guard. It could actually be in dark earth, but I'm assembling the black gun, so I have the black one here. We have a bag of tiny screws. So here are 3 pieces of the worm screw M3x5. We have these 3 pieces of different sizes of heat shrinking tubes for the hose. And the last item is the sleeve for the hose. It's black, but it could also come in green color. There will be only 4 chapters. That's a little unusual because we don't need to do any modification whatsoever to the upper receiver of HK417. The reason is the gun is so big that it's easy to fit the conversion, and actually it will be the simplest process so far. In the first part we will assemble the conversion based on the magazine parts as usual. In the second part we will do the lower receiver assembly for the conversion only. Then in the third part we assemble the hose to the pistol grip and of course the trigger guard, which will be identical to HK417 variant. And then in the last portion we will make the function checks and make sure that the gun works correctly. So I have this nice gun here, HK417 VFC of course, but this is the Gen 2, straight out of the box. Actually it's not so straight out of the box, I already replaced the barrel nut for the steel Z-parts barrel nut and the fire selector. What's interesting about the fire selector is that this is actually an old part that was designed a long time ago for the Generation 1, and Generation 1 had a ball end pin to hold this position and make this, you know, clicking. And the second generation actually has the conic tip on that pin, and this fire selector could not switch. So also this is not the stock backplate, this is a real steel one. Anyway, so I have this gun and I will put the conversion into it right now to demonstrate you how to do it. And I'm using this one conversion, which is actually a prototype, but for the purpose of mounting it's exactly the same. You can see what's the difference. So it's a two-part here, there is a seal in between, some screws holding this together, and a different connector on the bottom. So on the conversion you only need to take the top here, two screws. Okay, so it's off. And now the magazine, you need to push off, just regularly push it, this bottom plate. Then you have the insert, you need to push it out just like this, and be careful because this part which covers the mainspring will tend to jump off because of the spring tension. Okay, so it's off. I'm taking this out carefully. And of course make sure that there is no gas in the magazine, you don't want the gas to shoot in your face. In my case, if I press the valve, of course it's empty. And very similarly to the conversion, two screws here on the top to remove the seal. Now without these screws I can take off this plastic part, take the seal out, and if I already have it in my hands, let's mount it to the conversion. Very simply, just push it in this groove here. Like this. I don't think you need to add any Teflon tape, but you can if you'd like. And then you cover it with this plate, of course. And put the screws back. Okay, the screws are back, the seal is in. So now the valve for the rear. And here this valve is a little deep inside. You can undo it with the flat screwdriver like I usually show. But this time I'll do it with the tool. Yeah, so put it in. Beautiful. And make sure you did not lose any seals. There should be 3. There's one missing. And the last one, so it stayed inside, I need to take it out. So here is the seal, let's put it back. Make sure the seals are clean as always. Oh, and we have our valve. You don't need anything else, so you will put the valve in here, and the rest of the parts you can do whatever you want with them. So now I'm simply putting in the cleaned valve into the conversion. I can move up this lever so that it don't disturb me, and yeah, let's screw it in. So as you remember, we take the wrench, we push it in, we rotate it counterclockwise until it clicks. It means that the threads are fitting now, and then we screw it in. Okay, nice and tight, valve is there. The first step is ready, really simple. So now for the second step, we need only the lower receiver. As I said, no modification to the top. push out these two pins. So the first one is out, now the second one, and so I'm putting the top completely aside, and here what we need to do is to take out the trigger block, because this will be our mounting point. And this is Gen 2. This trigger block looks tiny bit different than the original Gen 1. It's black, it has a little different geometry, but the attachment method stays exactly the same. So in order to take this block out, first we remove the bolt catch. So we push out the pin, remember about the spring underneath. So pin is out, bolt catch, and here the spring. So put this aside, and now we undo this screw here and this screw here. These screws are secured with some Loctite, so it might be a little harder to remove them than you think, but you see it's perfectly doable. One is out, and the second one is out. Now we can pull out this block and the lower receiver can be put away. So here, not to lose the parts, we first remove the silver arm by pulling it off to the side. It has a spring, so again, don't lose it. And now we need to remove the screw on this side. I will clean it up a little. So now, in order to disassemble this part, we need to remove that screw here on the side. But I don't want to do it yet. I will first show you how this will be assembled later. So if you look on the bottom and you take the conversion, you will see that this shape matches here. Right? So what we will be doing is we need to make a cutout in these two halves that will match to this rear shape of the conversion here. So this tiny little tab on this side and this bigger attachment on this side. Like this. It's all black, so hopefully it's visible. And later on we will put the conversion into the gun and mount this complete block on the conversion so that it pushes down the conversion and holds it. So what should be the fitting? It should be 1-to-1. So these edges here on this side, they should match. So if you see that the dimensions of this tab are 6.3, here 3, so for this half, this is the shell ejector side of the gun, you want to make a cutout 6.3 and 3mm deep. Only on this side, because you can see it ends here exactly in the middle. And for this side you only want to make this small cutout for this feature, because the block cannot be milled to have a bigger cutout like on the other side. And this is to prevent the conversion from rotating. So it's very small. It also has 3mm of height, but only 1.7mm width. It should end up aligned with this edge here, and we want to like elongate this edge so that it meets this hole for the screw here. So if I'm to demonstrate it, so this step would be following this edge here until it goes into this slot that we need to make, that would be joining with this hole, right? I recommend doing 6.5 for this one. So I take the dimension with a caliper and I mark it here along the part with a scratch. Then I take those 3mm for this one, and again I mark it here. Actually you might do tiny bit less, like 2.9, 2.8, and the reason is that this way you will be able to have some pressure between this part and the conversion. You don't want to have the conversion under this part and this part not to press on it, because it will become loose. If you overdo it, you can always put some shim underneath to make a sandwich and squeeze it, yeah? So I have the 6.5 line here. I can put it also on the side so that it's a little easier. And 3 millimeters actually is the distance here. It's around 3 millimeters. So basically what you want to do is to be level with this surface, right? For this half. For this one, you only make this groove inside, and the height also should be the same as this shelf or the wall here. So now that I have it prepared, I can remove this screw. And when the screw is out, I can open it, and again, valve knocker plus spring, so don't lose any of them. I recommend you to clean this grease out before milling. It will make much easier to clean up the parts from debris after the process. So now I'm going to use my Dremel and I will be back with the result. So when I have this part together, I can put the conversion into the new cutout. And you see how it fits. So here, nicely, and the through hole. Here on this side, rotation prevention. And if we look like this, you will see that conversion is like 0.2 millimeters higher than this surface. So definitely if I screw this into the gun, it will push on the conversion. So the next step will be putting this into the gun. So obviously the conversion will go here. So the conversion will fit here. And this hole will be there over this hole for the screw. So the rear part of the conversion here has to go into this slot on the rear of the magwell. And sometimes it's looser, sometimes it's tighter. So if you are not able to just drop it in, if it does not go in, maybe you need some filing. But in my case, I'd say it fits almost perfectly. There is this small gap on the rear. Maybe you can see some light going through. Not really. It dropped in, so then we will put this trigger block over it. And the conversion will stay here. Of course, we first need to put all the other parts in, so let's do it step by step now. So first let's prepare this trigger block. We need to only put this part back. Remember the spring here. And remember to reloop this groove where it goes into. What you do is you just slide it in, push the spring in and close it. It should spring back. You might want to hold this silver part while maneuvering with it because it tends to jump out. And we drop the conversion in. And we put this part over it like this. Now we had these two screws. Here we put back the longer one, here the shorter one. And of course we need to tighten them. So now when it stays in place, I don't tighten the screws all the way in yet. I first insert a magazine. Same as with other conversions. If I put the magazine in and then tighten the conversion, it will position itself in a orientation in which the magazine slides in nicely. If you do it without the magazine, it might end up rotated somehow and it might be difficult to put in the magazine, or you might scratch it, whatever. So put the magazine in, make sure it clicks, and now tighten the screws to the maximum. The screws are tight, magazine slides in easily, no problems. We can take it out. Now on this side we put first the spring for the bolt catch back, then the bolt catch arm and the pin. And make sure that it works, so the spring is pushing it back, and you can even lift this with your finger from here. And that's all for the second step. Now what we're gonna do is some functional check for the bolt catch and the conversion, that it's assembled properly. So what you need to do is to, of course, put the upper receiver back on. So pins out, 1, 2, first pin back, second pin back. And now when you pull the charging handle, you want this behavior, that the nozzle stays almost to the end of the travel in the chamber. Yeah, it means that it's okay, it will be tight. And you remember I did a video on the bolt catch issue for HK417 and AR15 from VFC, and I said that when the bolt is traveling back and it's around 1/4 of the travel here, it already cuts off the gas. So we modified the nozzle so that in the half of the travel it's already disconnected from the hop-up chamber. In 417 there is no reason to do it. First thing is that the gas cutoff is much later, so if we blocked it here it would spill the gas into the air. We don't want this. Second thing is that because of the bolt catch construction and the speed of the bolt traveling and the heights between the bolt catch and the nozzle, this damage to the corner is almost not existing. So I have 2 VFC 417s myself. I never had an issue with bolt catch in them. I inspect this damage if it's happening similarly to HK416 and AR15, and it's barely there. It's really not worth taking care of. It's perfectly fine there. So we don't need to modify anything here. That's just a side note. And now let's put in the magazine. So now the bolt catch function, and we pull the charging handle when the magazine is fully seated, and we pull it all the way back and it should lock, which happens. With 417 we don't really get this clicking noise when it jumps back. There is nothing for the arm to hit against like in the other guns. So just do it a few times, like 2 or 3. And you see it works. So the next step is the modification of the lower receiver, about which I already spoke, that it's exactly the same as the HK416 or AR15 from VFC. I'll copy material from that original video about HK416 because, as I said, this part, the trigger group, everything here is 1-to-1 exactly the same as 416 and AR15. So for this we don't need the upper receiver, so let's not use it. And first part is the removal of the trigger guard, so it's the same as all AR15 type guns. So button on the front, and then here we have a pin, so we need to push it out. And when the pin is removed, we just take out the trigger guard, and both these parts will not be used anymore. When the trigger guard is gone, we will remove the pistol grip to put the hose into the gun. Yeah, so you might have a different type, maybe you replaced it, or you have just a different gun with different pistol grip, but generally the way to do it is the same. So in my case I need to take off this cap. Maybe you have a different cap or no cap. And now here deep inside you can see this big screw, so I just need to unscrew it. Okay, so I can remove the pistol grip now, and when I take it out there will be this tiny spring falling from the hole here, and there is also a pin. So you don't want to lose it, you can pull it out with some kind of magnet, for example. So this is the screw from the pistol grip, so let's put it aside for the moment. So now I will put the hose into the conversion with the trigger guard on, and this is pre-assembled in semi-final position. I will explain in a moment. So you just need to take it, rotate the lower receiver, insert the tube into the conversion here, yeah, and push it. So there will be some resistance, you can support it. So it sits, and now I'm gonna take the trigger guard, I'm gonna bend it out of the lower receiver, and I'm gonna slide it forwards a little so that it starts fitting in between these holes. Okay, so when it's like this, I can leave it, and let's modify the pistol grip now. We need to drill a hole in here from the front so that the hose would go into the pistol grip and down. The hose has the outer diameter of 6 millimeters, but I also always do a bigger hole here, as big as possible, going straight in. And in these HK type of grips, you can see on the bottom there is like a thick wall, so I want to also drill it from the top, because the screw head, if you look on your grip, is occupying most of the area where the hole will be when I drill it from the front. And this is different from grip to grip, yeah? So in this case, I'm gonna use a little trick to increase the space there. Also, another trick to increase the space, in case in your grip, maybe you have some special one, there is very small space to push the hose next to the screw head here. You can exchange this screw for a sphere type head screw, yeah, because this is the cylindrical head, so it's a bigger one. So I'm gonna modify the pistol grip and I'm gonna show you the result. So I have the pistol grip, you see the hole on the front, and there is a hole also inside where this exits, but it's also like I explained. So it goes like this, but from this side parallel to this wall I drilled it also like this. I can go on and mount the pistol grip. That's really simple. The way how I do it is that I put the hose in first, the hose goes in, and then I bend it away, I put the screw next to it. Hopefully you can see the screw is already here. Remember to reinsert selector pin and the spring that was here. You need to put the pistol grip back, try to make the screw catch against the thread, and then rotation by rotation with the screw pull the pistol grip and the trigger guard into its final position. So I have it in place, everything fits. You can see trigger guard actually sits pretty nicely already, but we are gonna attach it permanently, let's say, to the gun right now. So we are using these 3 tiny headless screws, these worm screws. This is M3x5, and we are gonna screw it through these holes and the one on the other side directly into the trigger guard. We want to have it flush with the body, because if you screw it too far inside, then it will start to pushing on the hose and you can crush it, yeah? So not too far. And this is a GBBR, so I suggest you use some kind of quick drying glue like Loctite, super glue, whatever you call it, and apply it on the screw, then screw it in, because otherwise it will fall out, yeah? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you one. So I have some glue on my screw. I'm gonna push the trigger guard into final position, carefully insert the screw in this hole, and basically apply some force and screw it, yeah? So it goes in nicely, and as I see it's flush, then I finish, yeah? And I'm gonna repeat it here and underneath in the same, like a symmetrical hole. So I'll be back with a result. And my trigger guard is attached, it does not move anymore. We have those 2 screws and the last one on this side here, yeah? Now we're gonna do some function test. So if you're afraid you could do something wrong, you can wait with these screws on the trigger guard until you perform this test, because it will be easier to disassemble everything if that's not screwed in, yeah? But obviously it can be removed too. So I'm gonna blow through the hose, and when the gun is charged, so in VFC you can put it on safe when it's charged, yeah? So the valve in the conversion should be in the closed position. I should not be able to blow through it. The second stage, I'm gonna put the gun on semi and pull the trigger so the valve will open and I should be able to blow through the tube. Hopefully you are able to hear this. And then I'll charge the gun again. So the valve should reset, and now I should not be able to blow through the tube. Again, hard to hear because I'm not able to blow through it, but it works, you have to believe me, yeah? So now is the time for last stage of the assembly, so we will finish the hose. And basically the hose comes in a much longer part than you probably needed. This is just in case you did something wrong, you need to cut part of it. Yeah, so that's like a safety measure. And you receive a 20 centimeter piece of protection sleeve. I don't know how long you want to keep this on the gun, so I'm gonna shorten it, yeah, but you can use up the complete length. So I have a shorter piece here. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put this over the hose, and I'm gonna put this small piece of the heat shrinking tube over it. And again, it has like 5 centimeters of length. Probably you don't need it so long, yeah, so it's up to you, you can shorten it. So the tube is here, and I'm gonna insert the second size, yeah, and again, it's 5 centimeters, probably you don't need that much. It will cover a piece of the quick connector, so you can shorten it based on your preference. So the middle size is on. And now what I'm gonna do, I need to cut the hose to final length. So it depends how you like it. Obviously, I like it kind of shorter, let's say. So I'm checking with the sleeve how much I want to have it sticking outside of the gun. So in my case it will be something like this, and I'm gonna cut it like 1 centimeter longer. So this is what we will be working with, and we need to undo the nut here on this side of the quick connector, and we put it over the hose. Then we squeeze the hose into the tube, okay, till the very end, and we move the nut back, and we need to screw it properly until there is big resistance here. Yeah, so I screwed it in, it sits nicely. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull the sleeve back so that it's aligned here, and this will be the position I want to have it in. So I'm gonna put a dot of glue here, this Loctite or super glue type, because from my experience I know that this tends to be like torn out from under the heat shrinking tube. So I'm gonna put one dot here on both sides, let's say, and then move the sleeve over it, then the tube over it, and I want to shrink the tube in this position. So this end is shrunk, and I'm gonna take the largest size of the heat shrinking tube, and I'm gonna put it all over this main connector, so like this, and make sure that it reaches this area more or less where the sleeve ends, yeah, so something like this. Again, shrink it. So it's shrunk, you can see that it reaches further than the sleeve, yeah, it catches also the sleeve partially here, and here it's over this quick connection area, so I will just cut this off with a knife. Okay, so this end is cleaned up, yeah, you can see the whole connection area is exposed. There should be no issue with the hose connection for the regulator. So now we are gonna move this part out of the pistol grip, and I'm gonna set the sleeve so that in the middle of it the hose ends. So it's shrunk now, and the thing is I can move it, yeah, this is important. So right now what I'm gonna do, because I want this to be hidden, I'm gonna push it in to find where the final position is. Then I'm gonna move it back, apply a dot of glue inside, and then slide it over this glue so that it's caught in this final position inside, and it's finished nicely. And this is it. So the sleeve is nicely stretched, the hose is attached, it's covered. You can figure out different ways how to make a cutout here, or maybe you have different grips, so in general this area could be a little different, but the methodology is exactly the same. And the gun is ready. So the hose is finished, screws added, trigger guard in place, everything's fine. Let's go and test this. Okay, so first, of course, remember to re-lube the gun so that it's fully ready to shoot. And then VFC, not possible to put on safe unless charged. We have to do it, otherwise when we connect the pressure it shoots immediately. Charged, safe, all okay. Now pressure, no hissing, Everything seems okay. I'm doing 120 psi on the Redline Mini SFR. Let's try some single shots first. No problem. Some full auto. Now we take a magazine. Empty one, of course. Let's see the bolt catch action. Few single shots. No issues whatsoever, and I'll do one more thing. I'll put it on auto, I will hold the bolt catch and I will release it after a few shots to see if the bolt blocks properly. Works. Everything's okay. We can set up the NPAS and the gun is ready. You can play. And this is all for today. The HK417 officially joins the HPA GBBR family. Hope you like it. This time it was much simpler than the other guns. As usual, in case of questions, Facebook, comments, you know where to find me. For now, thank you for your attention. We have more coming, obviously, so stay tuned. Subscribe, hit the notification bell not to miss anything. Leave the comments, leave likes. I highly appreciate your support. So, thank you so much, and for now, may the power of GBBR be with you.